Good morning, Year 11s. I promised I'd do this video, so here it is. We're going to do cheesy schnitzels with pressed Parmesan potatoes. Quite an easy, quick recipe, I gather, but you need to get all your ingredients together so it's easy to, like a good workflow plan. Okay, so let's get started. So I have my recipe at hand just so I can check, which is just here, but I couldn't get beef, as I said yesterday, so I've got some chicken fillets. Now these are really thick. There's two in this packet. They're really thick, so I've split them down with a knife like that, and so they're opened up. So I've got two of those. They're still pretty thick, so I will beat them. Rest of the ingredients, so we've got an egg, we've got some milk, some salt, breadcrumbs. Now I've used panko. I really like panko. They crunch up really nicely, but you don't have to use panko. Some Parmesan cheese. I've just got that one there, which I have grated finely. Some olive oil, I've got that, and some butter. I've got some potatoes. Now I'm going to chop these in half to start, because they're not, I think the recipe is calling for little small chat potatoes, but I don't have them. Some oil, some more Parmesan cheese, and some spring onion. Now I don't have spring onion, but I've got some chives in the garden that I will get done. Now, first of all, with this recipe, if you read through, the schnitzels take say to go first, like just the way the recipe reads. But I know that the schnitzels are going to take a little bit less long, well, they're going to take less time to cook than the potatoes. So these potatoes say preheat the oven, which I've got on to 200. Okay, so then it says to put your potatoes in the microwave for 5 minutes. Now I'm going to chop these just so they're the size of a small potato. Now I've just doubled the recipe because someone in my house will eat this for lunch because we're all here. Okay, so I'm going to pop those into the microwave on high for 5 minutes. Now this is just going to cook the internal part of the potatoes, so it's not as long in the oven. Now while my potato is in the microwave, I'm going to do my chicken fillets. Now I just want to sort of beat these down a bit to even them out, make them a bit thinner. Now I don't have a meat mallet, so I always use my rolling pin. Now don't do that too hard because you don't want to split the chicken. Okay, so the next thing says to beat the egg and 2 tablespoons of milk. Beat that together with a bit of salt. So you just want that so the eggs are broken up. Okay, so the next step is to mix your breadcrumbs and your Parmesan cheese together. So it's a cup of breadcrumbs, and I've just got it on a plate. Now I've used a plate that's got a little edge on it so my breadcrumbs don't go everywhere, and 1/3 of a cup of Parmesan cheese. Now it doesn't really matter if you use too much cheese, just going to make it cheesier. Now best way to do this is just to gently mix them through. Okay. Next is a little bit of flour on a plate, and that is just so we can go dust the meat with flour into the egg mixture into the crumb. So here goes. We just want to lightly dust it with the flour. Now the flour, sometimes I don't use flour, but it does give you a nice base to then, it acts like the glue with the egg and the milk. So got that, and into my crumb mixture. Now I always press the crumbs in so they stay nice and firm onto our meat, our protein. Now you can do this with anything really. You could do fish, chicken, tofu. I actually saw, and it sounded beautiful to me anyway, someone had crumbed roasted pumpkin slices. So that'd be nice. So, and we'll do the other one. Okay, so here's my crumbed chicken ready to go. Now I've cleaned up and just left out the things I need. I like to have a clean space to work. The next thing we need to do is grab the potatoes out of the microwave and get them ready for the oven. Now these have been in the microwave. I put them in a little bit longer because they actually bigger. It's really hard with this recipe because it doesn't actually tell you how big those potatoes are. You can kind of see in the picture. But I just did them so they were just kind of a little bit soft. Not too soft, but they're just not like as firm as a raw potato. So I left them in there for about 8 minutes in that. So I'm just going to put them on a tray and they're going to go into the oven at 200 for 20 minutes. Okay, so I've had my potatoes are in the oven and I'm just going to chop up. I've went and got some chives out of the garden, beautiful chives. I'm going to just chop some of these up. Now I'm using these instead of the spring onions. Now these are the potatoes. They've come out of the oven. They're started to go a bit crunchy. So now they've cooked right through. I'm going to smash them down with my potato masher. And drizzle, well that one needs a bit more. Going to then drizzle it. Now it does say spray, I don't have spray, I try not to have aerosols in the house, but drizzle it with a bit of olive oil. And I'm going to got 2 tablespoons of Parmesan. I'm just going to put a little bit of Parmesan on each of these. These look awesome actually. Now I'm just going to put a little bit of salt because Parmesan's pretty salty, but gee, I love, you need salty potatoes. Bit of salt, got a bit of sea salt here. And some chives. Now, whilst these are in the oven, these go into the oven for 10, still at a hot oven, in a hot oven, 10-15 minutes till they're starting to crunch up a little bit. And then once these are in the oven, I'll cook the schnitzels. So now we're going to fry the schnitzels, and we're going to put, this is a non-stick pan, but we are going to put some, we're going to shallow fry, put some olive oil, and when that olive oil gets hot, I'm going to put a little bit of butter in. Now, the reason why we use both of it, butter's got the really a beautiful taste, and the oil has got a higher smoking point, so it can get hotter, and so it stops the butter from burning. So just once this is actually hot, I am then going to add the butter. So this is hot. I tried it with a tiny bit. I'm going to put a half a tablespoonish of butter. Let that start to foam up, and I'm going. This is only going to be big enough. The pan will only be big enough to do one at a time, so I can pop the schnitzel once it's golden on the outside. I can pop it into the oven. Now that is started. Melt that butter, and it started to sizzle. So now I'm going to add my schnitzel. Okay, so it's going to take about 5 minutes on each side to get golden. So this has been cooking for about 4-5 minutes on this side. I'm going to turn it over. Now with a crumb, you don't want to, that's beautiful, you don't want to turn it over too often because you'll lose your crumbs. So you need to be quite delicate. Now I'm going to get a baking tray out because once this is brown on that side, I'm going to put it on a baking tray and pop it into the oven whilst I cook the other. I've taken the schnitzels out of the oven. Look, I've put it on some brown paper, clean brown paper bag that I have in, so it absorbs a bit of the fat. So everything's ready now. Now these are massive. These are way bigger than a serve. They're probably 2 serves, but gee, that looks good. Okay, so chicken schnitzel. Over here I have our beautiful Parmesan potatoes, which look amazing. Now, I would suggest, as a really good meal serving, that this is like, you'd have half of that with a salad as well, because that is actually quite a massive lot of carbs we have there. Okay, so that looks really good. And put a little bit of fresh chives on that. And I think that looks really good. Clean up your plate and your mess around. Now that looks great. I hope you enjoy making these, and I hope that you do. So I hope you do some cooking this week. Okay.